SUV at Cherry Shell Harbour.
Welcome to Saturday League Kickoff.
Yes, welcome everyone to another edition of Saturday League Kickoff. Myself, Scott Sattler, now Andrew Webster not here today like he is each and every other Saturday, but because he's turning the big 5-0. Happy birthday, Webby, and he's got a big party tonight, we're led to believe. And in his place is the Chief League writer for Sydney Morning Herald, Adrian the Mad Russian Prosenko. How are you, AP? Welcome to our little shindig.
Hello, Sats. Thanks for having me, and a big happy birthday to Webby as well, who is celebrating his 50th. I understand there's a big congregation in the eastern suburbs, and they may well keep the NRL Integrity Unit busy this evening.
Now, if you had to invite one person, who do you think one of the first people from like NRL world would have been invited?
I reckon we'll go right to the top. I reckon Abdo, Volandis, they'll most likely be in attendance. It's more the journos that I'm concerned about. I reckon Christian Nicolucci, I heard, was best on ground during...
Vegas?
No, he didn't go to Vegas. He went to
Magic?
Vegas. He was best on ground in Magic Round.
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
Hey, so welcome to also all our viewers on Fox League. They join us each and every Saturday, and also our listeners across the SEN network, and if you're on the SEN app as well, welcome to the show, wherever you are listening and watching. Well, it has been a momentous week when it comes to the NRL, the official announcement. Now, it was in principle a few weeks ago, but the official announcement of the Perth Bears, which was very exciting. We're going to get to that very soon. And also on the show today, we've got Ben Hornby, the assistant coach of the South Sydney Rabbitohs, is going to join us as well. We'll ask him about Wayne's tooth and whether he's had that replaced. We'll review also Thursday and Friday night footy as well. And the big news of the week has been the Roosters roster, the turnaround over 2025. The latest one being the Cheese going over to the mortal enemies, South Sydney, but also the Bears and Laurie Daley. Now, one more week until the Queensland and New South Wales teams are picked. So we've got 1.5 rounds to go for players to impress before after round 11. And you sat down with him during the week, didn't you, AP, to talk about his second tenure as the coach. What did you make from a Laurie Daley from his first term as compared to the second term?
Yeah, well, firstly, Laurie Daley was really generous with his time. He gave us, myself and the photographer, about 2 hours, and we spoke about all of those learnings from that first stint in charge. He had 5 years in charge, only won the one series, coming up against one of the great Queensland teams of all time. And it's sort of funny, you sort of think he's seen all of those guys off, and yet Billy Slater's still there to thwart him. He's in the opposition coach's box. But a lot of the chat was about, we know that he's a wonderful bloke, Laurie Daley, one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet. And does he have that really steely edge as a coach to make the tough decisions, particularly at the selection table, which is probably where he let himself down a little bit in that first stint?
Well, that is probably going to be form part of our topic here today as well, is what is the most contentious position that selectors are going to be faced with. And after a couple of performances over the last 24 hours, it's a good headache to have if you're an Origin coach. But each and every week, we like to start the show off with our Saturday Spotlight. So let's get to it.
The Spotlight.
AP, did you like our audio there for the Spotlight? It's very creative, isn't it? Now, AP, what stood out for you throughout the week?
Well, there were so many massive moments for Latrell Mitchell last night, and it was hard to choose just one. But the one that I loved was in the 28th minute, where it was almost one of those run-it-straight challenges. You saw Payne Haas running all the way to the try line. It looked like he was going to get there. And you can only imagine what was going through Latrell Mitchell's mind. Like, here's a guy who's 117 kilos, almost 2 metres. Do you take him high? Do you take him low? Somehow he just got his body in front, and I thought it was an awesome defensive stop. And I think that sort of laid the foundation for everything else that he did in the second half. I thought those efforts off the ball, and we talk about Laurie Daley and what he's looking for. You know, there was that one. There was a covering tackle on Dean Mariner as well. I just thought that set him up to do all those special things in the second half.
Yeah, we're always looking for those great players, and it's all about attack, isn't it? Everything they can do at attack, how they can score tries, create tries. But last night with Latrell, it was that second line of defence. So I can't wait to talk to South assistant Benny Hornby. He's going to be coming up very, very soon on the show. For me, it's another fullback, the Hammer. So the Hammer last night Thursday night in that game against Parramatta, those dying stages, it was a grandstand finish when Josh Adokar got away, got down that left-hand side, that western side touchline of Combank. And the Hammer used his speed to he was very deceptive. He forced Josh Adokar to pass early to Dylan Brown. He was able to double back around, turn his body, and still get Dylan Brown in that final tackle, drop the ball, game finished. And an amazing moment for two fullbacks with big plays that we're used to seeing them, like we say, with ball in hand. But two special plays from two pretty special players.
I think also Josh Adokar would have had in the back of his mind the fact that the Hammer has previously run him down as well. So that would have just been ticking away as he decided to pass the ball back inside.
Yeah, absolutely. You can join us anytime. We love it when you interact with the show. 0457 736 736 is the text line. And if you want to give us a call as well, this is the exciting part. 1300 01 1170 is the number for our Fox League viewers and our SEN listeners. So let's get to last night's game. And that first game, as I was sitting at the Rag and Famish pub at North Sydney last night, watching this, taking notes like a weirdo while everyone else was celebrating their end of week work, with my chicken palmy chips and coleslaw. Very good, I might add. That's not cash for comment either. I had to pay for it.
Are you sure?
24-20. The Titans ended up defeating the Knights. Now, this could have ended up, it was a tale of two halves. I can say that. There was the ill-discipline of the Titans in the first half and the ill-discipline of the Knights in the second half.
Yeah.
Belinda Sharp at times blew the pee out of the whistle, I've got to say. But after 30 minutes, 20-0 down. AP, how'd you see this? Because I thought the Knights imploded in the second half.
Yeah.
What I called lead lazy. We see some teams, they get to what they think is a really healthy lead, and they think about next week. You got players that are playing for rep duty. You got players that think about where they're going to keep their role in first grade as well. So you get lead lazy, and all you do is drop off 10, 15% off your performance.
Yeah.
And psychologically, you don't think you're doing it. But when you go back and look at different little efforts in the game, they amount to allowing a team to come back. And to their credit, they showed some great resilience, the Titans, in an away game.
Yeah. And you talk about leadership, and I thought Big Tino provided that in spades. I thought he did that before the actual game.
Yep.
So it was a milestone game for him. He was asked about that. And it's emerged that there's a lot of clauses that we'll talk about in contracts. And Tino's got one that means that he can leave at the end of 2026 if he so chooses. But he said, I'm going to be here, the Titans are going to be successful, and I'm going to be here when they are. And then he carries the ball 24 times, runs almost 250 metres, and everyone gets on board as well. And it's a really important moment too for Coach Des Hasler, because it also emerged that he's got clauses in his contract, this time in the club's favour rather than his. So if it all goes pear-shaped and they don't make the 8, potentially they can move him on. So at 20-0 down, he must have been thinking, my days are numbered. But as it turns out, they show a lot of resilience. They rally and he lives to see another day. Yeah,
24 unanswered points. 70 minutes, Tino. Not only that, with the set 24 runs, 244 metres, he had a football field of post carry. I don't say 92 or 98 metres, I'll just say a football field. Yeah. He ran a football field of post contact metres and did 40 tackles.
Yeah.
So when you talk about leadership, there's a leader.
Yeah.
And on the flip side of that, Newcastle are searching for them. They needed someone to stand up, because I thought Saifidi and Thompson were outstanding that first half. They set an amazing platform along with Tyson Frizzell. They went off and, Croker came on and did a great job as well. I'm a big fan of Adam Elliott. But guys like Bradman Bass and Kalen, they need to stand up. Those 80-minute guys, they need to stand up in those key moments of the game. Hey, this is Des Hasler post-game and what he had to say about the win.
Headlines is something that we can't control. It's what you blokes control. It was quite a good win when you think about it. It was a pretty tough start. Sort of being down at 20-6 at half times. We probably showed a lot of resilience, I think. Something that they've been talking about and sticking at it. So from that point of view, it was a really good result for us.
Yeah, it was. In that second half, they could have capitulated. But like I said, that Philip Sammy try 4 or 5 minutes before half time, you go in just with a little bit of confidence, a little bit of a sniff, and you think, maybe if we score one more, all of a sudden the scoreboard starts to put pressure on the team that's leading. So I think that's what happened last night. Newcastle, they were disappointing, I've got to say.
Yeah, Adam O'Brien talked about the fact that the back five were constantly making mistakes. They're the same people making the same errors. So, and I thought it was really important too that Des Hasler, he had all of his management and staff, like the board, all the leaders at the club, they were on the sidelines, and that seemed to me a show of support behind the coach.
And it's going to be a big question, isn't it, about what they do. Now, if you go to the end of the season And there's two trains of thought here with Daz, isn't it? Is that if they finish bottom four, you would think they would activate that and trigger that clause.
Yeah.
Where if they don't make the 8, they can part ways, or they can stop the flow of constant sacking of coaches at the club and show support. But in the process of both those scenarios, you either appease the fans and sponsors, or you maybe lose fans and sponsors as well. So there's a real balancing act as owners and board that they've got to look at as the season progresses.
Well, they've tried everything in terms of coaches. They've tried, like, Garth Brennan was the next big thing. You've had seasoned guys come in there. Des Hasler's won 2 comps, and nothing's really worked. So if he can't get them going, then I'm not sure who can.
Yeah. So with the Gold Coast Titans last night, I thought Beau Fermor was outstanding. He, again, I think stamps his claim as a potential origin player, utility sort of player. We know that he plays a little bit in the centres when he has to if there's injuries throughout the game. So Beau Fermor was outstanding. AJ Brimson was busy. He was everywhere. Now, Kieran Foran is expected back next week in the game against the Canberra Raiders down in Canberra. And so if he plays, I'm anticipating they'll probably put Kieran to 6 or 7 and maybe Jaden to 6, or maybe bring him off the bench.
I was going to say maybe off the bench, just given he hasn't played a lot of football recently, and just ease his way into it.
Because he is coming back from that bicep tear injury, so minimal game time is probably important for him. But I'm a big fan of Jalen the Groot, the fullback.
Yeah.
You know who he reminds me of? Clint Gutherson, young Clint Gutherson, where it's all about effort. It's not about blinding speed. It's just about he's safe, he's secure back there, but it's all about little individual efforts. I like him. I don't mind him.
Yeah.
And,
I think it's exciting to see young fullbacks given a go in the game. And you talk about Clint Gutherson, like him moving on has given a guy like Isaiah Yongi a chance to show what he can do. So I love seeing these young guys emerge.
We're going to talk about that game a little bit later on Thursday night. Isaiah Yongi, you're a Parramatta fan.
Long-suffering. Is there any other type?
That try, just had to just pluck it out of the air, didn't
I know.
Dylan Brown involved as well. Another man, also Josiah Pahulu. Now, he was last year was at the height of discussions around clause in his contract, and they dropped him the week before the clause was about to be activated, where he had an upgrade in money. And the Bulldogs were mentioned. I think that's gone a little bit cold. I haven't heard anything about that. But in saying that, he came on last night for 20 minutes. He's the new Spencer Leniu.
Yeah.
He's a wrecking ball.
But what is it with all these clauses in contracts, though? Like, seriously, when does it ever end well? Like, I can't believe that clubs keep doing it unless it's in their favour. And we mentioned it with Des Hasler in this instance, it's in their favour. But you just don't do it anymore, do you?
You don't. But the reason why clubs have to give it is because if it's usually about the position on the ladder they're sitting.
Yeah.
They have to give something to the player manager and the player to feel as though that they're meeting on equal terms. And unfortunately, sometimes it comes back to bite them. You just got to stand for what what you want to stand for in the future. Is you've got to make those decisions now and stand by them.
Well, it's interesting because Dylan Brown's obviously had that clause. He's leaving. He goes to Newcastle next week, so it'd be fascinating to see.
Next year?
Well, they actually play against Newcastle.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So I think that's going to be... What sort of reception does he get when he runs out?
Yeah, exactly. Well done, Dylan. His bank balance is going to look awesome. Hey, before we get to the break, we know that Desi Hasler is one of the most eccentric... Quirky is probably the right word to use. Now, post-game last night, it's always great when you win. You've got a little bit more sense of humour. You're a little bit more upbeat. And this is the answer that Desi Hasler gave to... Was it Brent Reid? It was Brent Reid,
asked the question.
Post-game.
But we know what you're like. Surely you love sticking it up some people today.
No, not like that. It's not about me, mate. It's about those individuals that were playing out there today. That's the main focus. And look, tomorrow, what's that say? It'll be what? Fish and chip wrapping tomorrow? That's a fair call, isn't it? Yeah, that's a blast.
It's the internet now, mate.
Yeah. The internet as well. You can order on the internet fish and chips.
That's what we love about him, Desi.
He's
like
the
we
best.
said, when you're winning, he must be challenging as a journo.
You know, one of the favourite stories I've ever written was a feature for his 400th, and he very rarely talks about himself, and it took me 5 or 6 weeks to convince him. And some of the stories that he told, he actually used to busk in a band called Legal Tender, and he used to busk all his way through the rocks. he was like the lead singer with a gravelly voice, and they'd be doing like Crosby, Stills and Nash covers and stuff. Can you imagine that, Desi, like with the bucket out or whatever else? Unbelievable.
Be more like the Uncanny X-Men. That's what it is. Hey, let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff. Coming up after the break, we've got South's assistant coach, Ben Hornby, is going to join us. Yeah, welcome back to the show. Saturday League Kickoff. Scott Sattler and Adrian, the Mad Russian Prosenko, is in for Andrew Webster. Like, if you're just joining us for the show, whether you're viewing us through Fox League or on the SEN network, Webby's 50 this weekend. So happy birthday, Webby. Having a big shindig tonight. Broncos won't make the 8, boys, 158. We've got plenty of texts coming through. If you do want to get involved in the show, 0457 736 736. And if you want to give us a call, 1300 01 1170. Now, big win for the Bunnies last night, 22 points to 14 over the Broncos. And their assistant coach, Benny Hornby, joins us on the line. The Burrow would have been absolutely humming last night. How are you, Benny?
Yeah, I'm good, boys. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very much. You snap a 4-game losing streak, and I know we're just talking about Desi Hasler earlier on. The coaches are always happier after a win. You have a nice sleep thanks to temper. So last night, it seems as though it was all really built on great defensive efforts. Benny, is that fair?
Yeah, it has, and we've had so many changes to our side the last couple of weeks, so attacking-wise it's hard to get any sort of fluency. So we've been working hard in our defence, and it has been a lot better this year, and it's been the reason we've won quite a lot of games. So if we can keep that going and hopefully get a little bit more fluency in our attack, we'll be in good shape.
Benny, just talk us through the injury situation. I mean, Cody Walker, Jack Wyden, Cameron Murray, Alex Johnson, Tyrone Munro, Peter Mamazoulis, Michaeli Ravaloa. It's one of the worst injury wards that I've ever seen for the Rabbitohs. How have you guys been able to negotiate yourself through that period?
We've just been going with the next man up policy. I mean, it's not ideal for us, and like I said, it has hindered our game a little bit, but the boys that have been stepping up, and a lot of them got a bit of game time last year as well, so that's been a big help, and the confidence that Wayne puts in everyone to do their job is there for everyone to see.
Now, I know we want to talk about some of Latrell's efforts, but there's a lot of other players around him that go to that victory last night, Benny, and as an assistant coach, you get to look at those little efforts, but there's one player this year, is Keon Kulamatangi. Now, he's been a transformation. Firstly, he just looks notably lighter this year, and secondly, it seems to have spiked his overall game. So the question is, Benny, is it because of the changes that he's made at this part of his career, or is it the maturity that he's now got in his game, or is there a little bit of both?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. I think he's definitely put a renewed emphasis on his conditioning, and that was evident from the first moment he stepped into the pre-season. He'd lost a heap of weight, and he looks fantastic. And then on the weekend, he went into the middle, and he's a world-class middle. I know he plays a lot of his footy on the edge, but he did a great job for us last year in the middle, and we just thought with how we'd been going, it was a chance to put him back in there, and he showed what he can do. Now,
let's get on to Latrell's game last night. Usually it's in attack and the things that he can create for other players, but as we touched on earlier on, it was about those last line defensive efforts. They were pretty inspirational as a leader of a team, weren't they?
Yeah, absolutely. And Latrell does that all the time in defence, to be fair to him. He makes big tackles all the time, and you could tell from his first couple of carries, like I think his first carry he ran straight at Pat Carrigan, and then his second carry he ran straight at Payne Haas. So you knew that he was on. They're not blokes you really want to be running into on kick returns, but that was just putting him in that mindset that he needed to be, that he had to lead by example. He had to show the boys that there was no backward step from us. And like you said, those try savers, one on Payne Haas and then one on Mariner in the corner, was huge for us, along with his field goal, obviously.
Benny, you being a great player yourself, and you've come across some players now as a coach, and the really good players, they still like to be coached. There's some that just do the bare minimum, and they can still be able to perform on the big stage. What's he like, Latrell? Take us inside the mind of Latrell. Is he a coachable kind of player?
Yeah, he is, but he's quite relaxed. I think that's the biggest thing with Latrell. He gets on from mistakes and those sorts of things pretty quickly. I think that's what separates him and the great players. They can come up with big plays, and if they don't come off, they don't dwell on it and take it into the rest of the game. They get on with it. Latrell definitely does that, and like you said, he's very coachable. He's always willing to listen, and just his demeanour, how relaxed and calm he is most of the time when he's off the field, helps him as well.
Ben, we all marvel when we see a 49-metre field goal attempt under the ultimate pressure. What sort of things does he
In the
actually do in the rain? What sort of things does he do at training where you just sort of shake your head in disbelief?
Oh, all the time. Some of the passes he throws, same with Cody at training, it's unbelievable stuff sometimes, the stuff you see at training. But these guys practice that like all our field goal takers. I mean, Jamie's probably our number one, but he's for the ones a little bit closer, and he kicked one earlier in the year as well. But they put a lot of practice into it, and it's won us 2 games, the field goals. So, the work they've put in, and we have a bit of a muck around every now and again after training, just saying, look, we only got one shot here, so let's have one shot, and we tally it up. And the boys are really, doing a good job.
Ben, you've got so many exciting, sometimes enigmatic players. Can you just give us a bit of an update on Josh Schuster, how he's travelling? He's been playing in the New South Wales Cup, and what he brings, and potentially when we can see him in the NRL.
Yeah, Josh has been going along pretty good. He's doing a good job in New South Wales Cup at the moment. He had an injury-riddled pre-season, obviously had a lot of time off with what happened to him in the previous year or so. So it's been a bit of a long road for him, but he's starting to get close to getting back now. And if he can keep performing in New South Wales Cup, then an opportunity could be right around the corner.
Hey, Benny Hornby, we're talking to if you're joining us on SEN and also Fox League. Now, Benny, Jamie Humphries, back into the side. I don't know what it is, but when I've watched South this year, it seems as though he seems to have some sort of calming effect on the team. Is he that sort of player? Because he seems mature well beyond his years.
He is. He really, really is. He's a great person too. Super fit. Loves the game. Wants to get better. Wants to learn. Like you say, he's a calm head. He's nice and cool. He does a lot of the kicking. So looks like he's just born to play halfback, really. So we couldn't be more happy with how he's going. And he was a little bit rusty in the first half, as you probably saw. He hasn't played for a couple of weeks, but as the game went on, he got better and better, and he'll only continue to get better every week.
Now, Benny, there's a rumour getting around the circles that when Wayne smiled, the fresh air hit his tooth, and that's why it fell out. So has he had the tooth fixed?
The tooth's been fixed twice and come back out twice. So he's got to stay away from the apples and the bread and whatever else he's using on that front tooth, because it's just coming back out. So Benny, the next one might have to be a sturdier job.
Well, it meant that you had to step in for his post-match press conference the other day. Can you tell us, I guess, Benny, for yourself, what it's been like having some experience as a head coach, albeit in a caretaker capacity? What has that been like for you, and what are your ambitions sort of going forward?
Yeah, well, obviously I'd love to coach first grade. That's the ambition. It's been great to have Wayne back. Obviously I've known him for a long time, and sometimes you sort of forget some of the things he does and around training and around how he talks to the boys, and he's obviously been a great help for my career as well. So just continue to learn. That's what you do in this game. You just continue to learn off different people and different styles and try and mould it into what you want to be. So that's definitely the ambition. Time will tell whether that happens or not, but that's what we're striving for.
Has he taken you up to the farm at Warwick yet? Have you got an invitation?
No, I haven't got an invitation. I'm sure he'd take me up there if I wanted to, but I don't think he thinks I want to go there. So I haven't got an invitation up there yet. So
apparently when players visit the farm, you get a cow named after you. So that could be something to look forward to, Benny.
Could be the next step in my career, you reckon?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, next week is Origin selection, and you've got a bye during that Origin period with a number of other sides. Benny, how many have you sat down as a coaching team and looked at possibly losing over that Origin period for both Queensland and New South Wales?
Well, we haven't really looked that far ahead, to be honest. With the amount of injuries we've had, we've just been trying to make sure we get a competitive team out there each week. So, I mean, the usual suspects will probably be there, and I hope Keon's put his name up to be a chance of getting selected as well after last night. I'm sure they could use a back row middle there somewhere. Yeah.
Now, on the injuries, Campbell Graham. It looks like last night he's throwing his body into everything, which means usually when you're putting your body in front of people, those injuries that have concerned you in the past have maybe stabilised a little bit. So he's in a good frame of mind from an injury perspective? Yeah, absolutely. He got a bit of a cork last night, so similar to Jai Gray, so that's given him a bit of grief. But his sternum now is really good, so that hasn't been a problem for him. He had a little bit of a sore back, again, just adjusting to coming back to playing NRL after having a year off. Yep. So, he's got a couple of niggles just from coming back, but you've seen he's played most of our games and he's been out there, so he's doing a great job for us, and it's great to have him back.
Ben, can you tell us a little bit about Bud Sullivan and what he's brought to the team? And it's an unusual situation in that he was at the Tigers and it's sort of like a 1-year loan deal, and there's a bit of a question mark about what he does at the end of the season. But is he a guy that potentially you'd like to see at the Rabbitohs longer term?
Yeah, we would. He's been great for us. I mean, start of the year coming off the bench, and he's a genuine number 7. And I think the more games he plays, the better he'll get. He's always been a great player through the junior ranks, and there's no reason why that can't filter through to NRL if he gets enough opportunity. So for Bud, it's just about getting better every week and getting consistent about his game. His defence has improved out of sight. You would have seen that last night. He put a couple of good shots on, and he's back down to a less playing weight, so he's feeling a lot better on the field as well. So we're excited about what he can do for the rest of the year. And like I say, if he gets a run of consecutive games, as you know, most halves sort of start to figure it out as they get a little bit older. So we're looking forward to seeing that.
Now, Benny, before we get to our to get you to vote for our Temper Great Night's Sleep player, who would have had the best sleep last night, we've got a text here on 0457 736 736 from Muttley. I'm thinking this is a former teammate of mine, but he says, would Benny Hornby be putting his hand up to coach the Bears? I
would, if they were interested. Like you say, you never know what's going to happen around the corner. So at the moment, I'm happy what I'm doing at South. But if an opportunity did come up, I'd be silly not to look at it, considering that's what I want to do as my career path. Well said, well said.
Now, Benny, from last night, South Sydney, which player do you think would have had a great night's sleep for Temper?
That's a good question. I'm thinking of who would have put in the most effort out there. I think Keon would have had the best rest, actually.
Yep.
It's not very often Keon comes off with cramps, so I think he had 20-plus carries and a heap of tackles, so I'm assuming Keon would have slept well last night.
Good stuff. That's the difference. The difference is Temper. That's our Temper player of the night. Thank you very much, Benny Hornby. You got the Tigers, 6 p.m. at Campbelltown next Sunday. Well done on the victory last night. Good luck next week as you go into a buy-over Origin period. Thanks for joining us on Saturday League Kickoff, mate.
Thanks, boys. It was a pleasure.
Let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff, and coming up next, the big news throughout the week. Yeah, we're back. Saturday League Kickoff. Scott Sattler, Adrian Prosenko is joining us on this Saturday as Webby celebrates and starts to set up his 50th birthday party for tonight. Unfortunately, can't go. I said to him, "What do you drink, Webby, so I can buy you a present?" He said, "Well, actually, everyone's buying me red wine, but I haven't got the heart to tell her if I'm getting off. I'm not touching alcohol for a while, so I can get fit and healthy and."
I reckon that'll last about 3 minutes today. I reckon it's already started.
It'll be tomorrow. Hey, if you want to get involved in the show, 0457 736 736 is our text line. And if you want to give us a call also, we'll take the calls, 1300 01 1170. A lot of texts coming in around Latrell, South Sydney, the Broncos as well. A lot of Broncos fans, they're really disenchanted by last night's effort as well. But let's get into what has been the news of the week. And let's start off with the Bears announcement. Now, we did know up to about a month ago that it was a fait accompli. That was pretty much going to happen. Whether you agree with it or not, it's still exciting, I think. I would have found other places to go to, but in saying that, it's great that we have this team over in the western part of the country. And even though you're not going to go toe-to-toe with the AFL, it's just good to have a presence there as well. So that has been one of the big stories, to be the 18th team in 2027. Fear not, it's plenty of time to get a team ready, because there is going to be some very good players that are on the market, and also they've got facilities over there that don't need much work done to them to get them ready for 2027. That's most notably a high-performance centre. And the stadium's already there. It just needs to be renovated, which they're going to spend a lot of money on. Now, AP, the big question about the North Sydney Bears is, one is going to be players, who's going to be available. That could be classed as marquee, touch on marquee, maybe just under a marquee and still at a sort of an elite sort of level. North Sydney Oval. Now, from where we're doing the show, it is about a 7-iron from North Sydney Oval. It is one of the most picturesque ovals, I think, in Australian sport. Not the greatest ground to watch a game of rugby league from, but it doesn't matter. It's just one of those ovals, a little bit like Henson Park. You just got to be there to watch rugby league. So, do we know anything in relation to what role North Sydney Oval will play?
Well, Peter V'landys has made it very clear that he wants games to be played there, so they're going to be played there.
Yeah.
And as it stands, it's going to need some money. We know that there's a lot of excitement about games when they very occasionally take into a place like Belmore.
Yep.
It needs a significant upgrade, and I've spoken to Zoe Baker, who is the Mayor of North Sydney.
Yep.
She says that council's going to play its part, but it's going to need three tiers of funding, basically from state, federal, and council, which probably means a bit of a rake hike for the local council payers as well. But
Is that to upgrade North Sydney Oval?
yeah, even it
Do
needs,
we want to upgrade it?
well, it needs money. It's not just for the Bears. You've got to understand that there's a lot of women's sport that's played there.
Yep.
There's rugby union that's played there. There's cricket as well. And it's a community facility. So they need to pump in money just to keep it up to scratch as it stands.
Yep.
But when you're talking about, having a sophisticated broadcast facility, at the moment it's still wooden seats. So
Yep.
if you want bucket seats and all those sorts of things, I think council will be able to possibly put in $5 million, a little bit more, and they can match dollar for dollar whatever comes in from the feds and from the state government as well. But it'll be a special thing. They'll play some trials there, and it won't be more than one game per year.
Yeah. And Josh has made a good point on the text line, 0457 736 736. He talks about if they're smart, they'll make the North Sydney Heritage Clash with the Warriors an annual fixture and lock it in. And it is about TV. And that's what expansion's about. Purely what it comes down to is how can we get more Fox Sports and Fox League subscribers?
Well, what about
which is important?
A clash with Manly, because just given that whole failed marriage as well. But I guess the most important thing is putting together a competitive squad, which is going to be really hard because unlike the Dolphins, they don't have Wayne Bennett as a magnet for players. Yep. And there's almost seems like there's more excitement on this side of Australia than on the other side. So we saw the front page screaming, blazing headline,
the
Bad
Western
News
Australian,
Bears.
yeah.
It's crazy, isn't it?
How good is it, bud? It's rugby league's on the front page.
It is.
Good or bad?
Well, it's such an AFL town, and it's owned by Kerry Stokes. He's obviously got the rights for the AFL. Seven West Media and the Western Australia will be giving them a bit of a kick, but Volandis sort of likes that as well. So he's been playing up to that and just saying, well, we're coming to take your lunch and we're hungry.
I love that.
It's terrific, isn't it?
It's one of the quotes for the Times, isn't it? Saturday 3 p.m. slot. Perfect timing across the board. 1 p.m. in Perth, 3 p.m. on the East Coast, 5 p.m. in New Zealand. So you're right. For the viewers like Fox League, viewers who are watching us right now, it's perfect. Yep. It's a perfect Saturday afternoon. More broadly, they want to avoid scheduling Perth home games later than 6 p.m. local time. Yeah, you're right as well. So it is key time zones. You make some good points there, Josh. Now, players that could be available. Now, you mentioned one earlier on. Tino Fasula Malaawi has an option in his favour from 2027 onwards.
Yep.
He's come out and said, no, I want to turn this club around. I love that about Tino.
Yep.
But money also does talk as well. When you're looking at a fresh checkbook, a clean salary cap that's willing to pay a premier front rower in the competition upwards of around $1.3 to $1.4 million, I think you're always going to sit and listen. I'll put a list together of players that are off contract at the end of 2026 that you would potentially look at as some of your inaugural signings. Jaden Campbell, Sandon Smith is playing himself into favour. Tyron Wishart, Talon De Silva, the young, impressive hooker at the West Tigers. Xavier Coates, Murray Taulagi. I've got Junior Bolo. You need one of those front rowers, those good, experienced, mature front rowers. So the Gold Coast Titans' first one was Luke Bailey. And at the Dolphins, of course, they signed the Bromwich brothers as well. You need those guys. Ryan Pappenhausen comes off contract as well. David Fafita, I would also go after David Fafita as well. So when people say there's not enough players, there's a few players right there. They do weaken clubs, but in saying that, there's some pretty healthy targets.
I found it really interesting that an up-and-coming young front rower like David Moali, he decides that he's only going to take a 1-year extension with South Sydney so that he can see that PNG's coming, Perth's coming, that there's going to be more demand for his services. And a lot of it's going to come down to the coach, and it sounds like Brad Arthur's well and truly in the frame that they've gone a little bit down the track with him.
I think he should be in the frame, in the conversation, but there are other coaches out there that I would entertain.
Well, Sam Burgess is another one that's been mentioned. If I can go really left field, if Peter Volandis wants to really stick it up rugby union and still honour the heritage of the Bears, imagine someone like a Les Kiss, who has played
Wallabies
for Norths, Wallabies coach in waiting as soon as Joe Schmidt hands over at the end of 2026. Imagine that if they could somehow get him involved, it'd be fantastic.
Yeah, there's other guys. There's a guy in England who flies under the radar. He's the English coach. His name's Sean Wayne. I'll be definitely having a sit down with him.
Yep.
Absolutely, I would be. From the research I did on him with part of the expansion bid in the 17th team, he rated very, very highly across all compatibles in the game. So he's definitely worth an interview. Now, Todd says on the text line, will the Perth Bears be based at North Sydney Oval for training for the away games? Good point, Todd. I would think they would be. But a lot of teams like to do their captain's run before they leave, but because they're travelling so much, I don't know what the Warriors do. Once upon a time, you used to arrive at your destination, get everyone out of sleep mode, go for a training session the day before, just get the blood pumping a little bit. They like to do their captain's runs before they leave now, but with a 4.5 to 5 hour trip.
Yeah, it's a long flight.
It's a good point you make there. And also, Willow from Windsor says they're lining up already at North Sydney Oval waiting for the gates to open. That's what we want. That's what we love about rugby league. If you can't be there in person, to be able to watch it on Fox League and to be able to listen to it as well on SEN is what the game's about.
It was so funny because they all congregated at North Sydney Leagues Club yesterday, and they thought initially it was a 12 o'clock announcement, and it's like it ended up being 1 o'clock. It's like, we've been waiting almost 30 years. How much longer do we have to wait?
It was WA time.
Exactly. And they didn't actually believe it until they heard it. It was so funny. And
the scenes were great.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. Like seeing, Florimo, etc., all of the true believers. It was awesome. So
it's exciting news for the NRL, the 18th team in 2027. Now, let's get into Laurie. You sat down with Laurie Daley throughout the week. It is all about Origin talk these next couple of weeks, and there are a lot of contentious positions. I think for New South Wales, the most contentious position is probably centre, maybe fullback.
Yep.
I think Dylan Edwards is probably going to hold the jersey.
I agree with that.
But I think there's what's going to have the most amount of debate around the selectors table. I think it would be fullback centre.
Well, what about the captain? I mean, I look at Jake Trbojevic has done a job for Michael Maguire, and he was an interesting choice because Maguire said he embodies all of the traits that I want as a New South Welshman, and there was a lot of talk about Steve Mortimer and the fact that we want to honour his legacy and spirit, and Jake does that. But he only played 85 minutes during the 3 games. So whether or not he's playing well enough, he's obviously missed a couple of games. The wingers is also contentious because Zach Lomax and Brian To'o haven't played. Each of them will probably only get 1 game before he names his team. And the mail that I'm getting is that he probably won't carry both of them. Like, it's just too much of a risk given they've hardly played any football over the last few weeks. Who partners Payne Haas as well as another one?
That's a really good point you make about Lomax and To'o.
Yeah.
Yeah. That is very risky. The workload that's asked of the wingers these days, that's very risky with only a game under their belt, a couple of games under their belt.
And it was just fascinating talking to Laurie, who, as we said, he's the world's nicest guy, but does he have that really steely edge?
And isn't it funny, playing against Laurie, he was the ultimate competitor.
Ruthless.
Like, he was ruthless. He was a savage on the field. A nightmare to play against in attack, but defensively as well. When you were going to run onto a ball and Laurie was in front of you, you just deviated your run a little bit because he had great tackle technique, but he loved collision. And as a coach, yes, he is the nicest bloke in the world, but he also made a really good point. Don't take my kindness as a weakness.
Yeah.
And I think he's hit the nail on the head. I think he's still ruthless as a coach in many parts, AP.
Yeah. Well, he's going to have to be ruthless at the selection table.
Yep.
And I think that's probably one of the places where he made some mistakes in the past, where a couple of selections, he was loyal to them and they probably didn't return that. And I know how much it means to him. Like, if you remember, after he lost that 2014 series, he had shingles, he was bedridden.
They won the 2014 series, didn't they?
Oh, sorry, his first loss as a series.
First loss, yep.
And he couldn't leave the house. He was bedridden. He just struggled to sort of look anyone in the eye because he just takes it so personally.
He felt ashamed, did he?
So you talk about wanting it and that desire, and he's got to pick blokes that are going to run onto the field and mirror that.
Yep. Jake Trbojevic, I'd have him in the side. I think he offers so much upside. And I'll use this from a Queensland perspective. You used to talk to the great Gary Belcher, one of our great colleagues at SEN for many, many years. And he used to talk about those Origin teams. And he used to talk about the likes of Gary Coyne and Fatty Vaughton and Trevor Gilmeister, those sort of players that never got the headlines, the next day. It was always Wally or Alf or Mal or Gino or someone like that. But those players that they just bring a team together, and they're willing to do all those little tiny things in a game. And I know in attack, Jake hasn't got great leg speed, whatever it may be. He's very skillful in attack. But defensively in Origin, it's about little tiny efforts. It's efforts, all these little battles. The great Brent Tate always talks about Origin as all these battles that just all emerge over the rugby league field on an Origin night. And if you win most of those little tiny battles that go unnoticed, you win the game.
Yeah.
And I think Jake, I think he personifies every bit about that. Those little battles, he's always there to win. So I still would be very apprehensive about leaving Jake Trbojevic out of an Origin side.
Well, if he does, he's got to replace him as a middle forward, but also as a skipper. So
Exactly.
does that all of a sudden, is it Nathan Cleary? Is it Isaiah Yeo? Perhaps a combination of the two. So massive call.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, plenty of text coming in as well, loving the show. Bit about the North Sydney Bears as well. Since the Bears have been out of the NRL, they've had the same amount of 5-day turnarounds as the Broncos up until last night. Laurie Daley shot on front rower Andrew G, 1992, I think it was. Yeah, Cam. It was a massive shot on the front row as he took a ball up off the tap.
Yeah.
And Laurie just ran. He would have got suspended for a shoulder charge in the modern game, but it was one of the great moments in Origin. We are going to try and get some time to talk about also the Roosters, okay, and what's going on there with. We've now learnt throughout the week that Brandon Smith is going to go to the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Actually, we'll quickly touch on it now. We'll quickly touch on the Roosters roster. And Dom Young's been told he can look somewhere else. Now, I understand that. Signing Dom for 4 years as a winger, I think is, I'd be a little bit apprehensive about doing that, signing a winger for 4 years. Someone who had some really great moments at the Knights, but hadn't done it for long periods of time in the NRL, coming over from the UK. And I use the analogy throughout the week on Sports Day with Rat. I was trying to explain to Matty Rogers. I said, well, if Dom Young was part of a sales team that was on the up, and like Lockie Galvin, he's on the up, and Lockie Galvin says, I'm going to go somewhere else. And while you're reaching all your targets and everything like that, as a team, you got the right to be a little bit disgruntled and go, why do you want to leave something that's on the way up?
Yeah.
And then you got the flip side of that, and everyone comes down hard on the club that gets rid of a player. Now, Dom Young, if he was in part of that sales team and he's not reaching his targets, you as an employer, you just say, well, it's best that we part ways.
Yeah.
It happens in everyday work, and it should happen in rugby league when you've got to deal with a salary cap and you're taking up a large portion of that salary cap. So, and the latest one on the back of that is Brandon Smith as well, being told he can go to South, coming back from an ACL injury in about the next 5 or 6 weeks. So I think there's some upside for South for this.
Yeah, I think the Roosters' retention and recruitment has actually been pretty ordinary the last few years. So you look at guys like Matt Lodge, Brandon Smith, Michael Jennings, Dom Young. They haven't really worked, and they've gone away from what what the club represents, the type of player that they want to come in, and they've also lost a few. So they let Terrell May go, Joey Manu and Joey Suli. They're guys that they wanted to keep. They obviously dodged a bullet with David Fafita, it would appear as well. But they've also missed out on guys that they wanted, like Sean Johnson, Dane Gagai, Ben Hunt. And everyone laughs about the salary sombrero, but it's very rare that Nick Politis hears the word no, and particularly that often. So it's now gone to the point where those two guys that are leaving now, Dom Young and Brandon Smith, they actually are going to have to subsidise them to make them attractive for another club. So they're going to be putting in probably, I don't know, up to $400K for both of those guys to play against them in the next couple of years. Yeah,
I know. And now Brandon Smith throughout the week, he looked a little bit disenchanted, didn't he? He looked a little bit depressed, actually, that the position that he finds himself in. He was on the buy round with James Graham throughout the week. Let's get to some of the audio from that.
It's a bit of a surprise. Everything I've read so far doesn't seem like I'm very wanted. Robbo rang me just before. Well, it was a good conversation. Like, it was nice. He's like, mate, we're just trying to save some money. I find it's going to be hard to go into training. I still got to do that. We're meant to have the week off. I'm playing some reserve. I'm training with the reserve grade side this week, so... Yeah, I guess it's going to be a weird feeling going into the club.
It is a weird feeling initially for a player. And when he says, I've got to go into training, I don't know how I'm going to go into training, the players are very receptive.
Yeah.
And they understand the situation as well. I'm talking about the Roosters players. I mean, they would welcome him. I mean, he wouldn't be a pariah. He he wouldn't be left isolated. So, he, like I said, he sounded very disillusioned, didn't he, in that audio?
He did, and they're sort of at a crossroads now because all the talk is that they're clearing their decks for DCE to come across. And if that happens, I reckon someone's going to get squeezed out. So whether it's a Sandon Smith, a Hugo Savala, or a Toby Rodwell, that's going to come at a cost.
Yeah, Hugo Savala, there's another player who's forging a great career for himself, and on the back of 2 new teams, could find himself in a really good position, both he and his agent. Let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff. Have your say, 1300 01 1170, or send a text 0457 736 736. Myself and Adrian Prosenko here for you with you on a Saturday morning, and we're going to get to your texts and your calls after the break. Welcome back. Now, just to recap the first hour, we had Ben Hornby on the show, and some good little insights into Latrell Mitchell as well, and also his aspirations as a coach. I like how he put it out there. Usually everyone will be. It's usually when you ask a player, Origin coming up, do you think you've been playing well enough? Oh, well, I'll just let my form do the talking. But to come out and say, that's what I want to do. I want to coach a first grade side.
He's going to be so much better for that experience as a caretaker, and learning under Wayne Bennett. That's the best way to do it.
Covered Thursday, Friday night games as well. We're going to cover the Saturday, Sunday games in the second hour of Saturday League Kickoff. And if you are viewing us on Fox League, we say goodbye to you at the end of the first hour, but you can still get us on the SEN app or the SEN network as well. So if you haven't got the app, very easy to download wherever you get your apps from. 0457 736 736 is our text line. Let's get to some of the text to finalise the first hour. Morning show. Morning, guys. Love the show. What's the go with the Broncos at the moment? Long-time supporter here. I miss the days of the Steve Renoff scoring tries. Trevor from Kedron. Do you know what? I just don't think they're playing tough enough. I know that seems a little bit too much of a
which is what we expected
a rookie
under
way
Maguire.
to look at rugby league. Yeah, but it's not the way Michael Maguire likes his sides. They'll get it, and when they have that mentality, the way they played against the Bulldogs that night, they'll be one of the most unstoppable teams in the comp. But it's finding that, being able to keep those players playing at red line for long periods of time.
The big surprise is that they've been run down in the second half for several games this season.
Yeah, which again is not like a Michael Maguire side.
Yeah.
What about Laurie Daley's poor record? Only one series win. Why is no one talking about that? Toddy says. Well, he's aware of that, and he awares that. He actually made a comment during an interview throughout the week. He said, and I think it might have been with you, AP, where he said, even though we beat Queensland, that amazing Queensland team, probably one of the greatest assemblies of a side we'll ever see in the history of the game, he said, I still class my Origin career as a coaching career as a failure.
Yep. And they came so close on so many occasions. Yep. So he only has to tweak a couple of things, and hopefully they redress the balance a little bit.
Yeah. Morning, guys. I'm watching on Fox League every week. Love the show. I'm a huge Bronx fan, and last night I was speechless. I was without speech. I didn't know what happened. What's happening to my Broncos? I was heartbroken, Nick Pearson says. Last night was terrible. It was. I mean, you got to take your hat off to South. I mean, they basically out-bullied them and out-muscled them. They didn't play with any finesse, South Sydney, and it shows that you don't need finesse to win. You just got to have a really good mentality around confrontation and contact and defence. If you've got that mentality, you win a lot more games.
Well, Wayne Bennett strips it right down, particularly early in the season, and especially when he's down on troops with so many people in the casualty ward.
Yep. Seagull Peter says, it's a pity that the Bears aren't back in 26. How ironic would it be that Daley was their captain in the first year?
Wow.
He might be the captain in their first year still. Who knows? He might play at least 40. We never know. Morning, AP and Sats. Would you say this is a must-win for the Dragons tonight? Looking forward to seeing a Loco Pacifico Tonga debut. He is a beast. Port Park Dragon, Albion Park, yeah. I'm looking forward to him as well. And we're going to talk about those games a little bit later on. Now, we're going to say goodbye, like I said, to our Fox League viewers. You can catch us on the SEN network and download the SEN app. This is Saturday League Kickoff. Welcome back. Second hour of Saturday League Kickoff. Scott Sattler, Adrian Prosenko sitting into the electric chair for Andrew Webster. Happy birthday, Webby. I know he's out there walking his little staffy, his little blue staffy, whose name's Stevie Nicks, listening to us on the SEN app. And he's got a big night ahead of him. Big day, big night. We should call him tomorrow morning, try and get him on for an interview.
Nice and early.
Yeah, that'd be good. And there's some great clashes over this weekend. None more so than the one this afternoon, which I'm going to be on a plane for.
Oh, no.
As it kicks off, which I'm absolutely filthy about. A lot of Bunnies fans, a lot of Broncos fans, a lot of Bears fans as well that have been texting the show this morning. And you can give us a call, 1300 01 1170. If you are a Bears fan or a Bronx fan or a Rabbitohs fan, Para fan, whatever it may be, tell us about your thoughts on your team and your team coming back into the comp as well. We want to hear the passion in the fans' voices in the first hour. Just to recap, we went across the Friday night footy game, which was the Knights versus Titans, the Rabbitohs up against the Broncos. Our guest was Benny Hornby, the assistant coach for the South Sydney Rabbitohs. We tried to get Wayne. Is that the orthodontist? No, it's not the funniest thing ever. Do we know how he lost his tooth?
He's got a really sweet tooth. I'm tipping it would have been like one of those really hard toffee lollies.
He doesn't look like he
like
eats at all, so I don't know how he would have broken it on food.
He'd have the fastest metabolism of all time.
Yes. That was a great runner, don't you?
Yeah.
Great runner. I think he still runs. Now, I think I may be right or wrong, but he does live around somewhere around the eastern suburbs or in that, I think it's still in the South Sydney district, maybe, but people have seen him walking. But back in the day at the Broncos, they've got this famous run up around this place called The Gap. And Wayne Bennett used to famously beat 3/4 of the players back.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
He would have been doing that in his 50s.
Yeah. I mean, Craig Bellamy, they do a run in Melbourne called The Tar, I think it is. Stormy Daniel, or Hillstorm Hillary, mad Melbourne supporters. They call it The Tar. And they reckon Robbie Ross and those sort of guys were just famous for breaking records. But Bellyache used to give a lot of players a little bit of the hurry up in that run as well because he's a super fit guy himself.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
he looks at them. A lot of the times he's hiding in the bushes to see who runs and who does a little shortcut or whatever else because they're the type of guys that he likes to...
There's actually a picture in his book. And yes, Craig Bellamy has written a book. It's called Home Truths. It's a good book,
It's a great
actually.
book,
yeah. And there's a picture of him, not hiding, but just standing in the bushes, and he sees the way that people react when they're under pressure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a good read. And also the big news of the week, which has been the Roosters roster. Also the biggest news, and it's always big news when we have expansion.
Yeah.
It was big news when the Dolphins came in for 17th. It was big news when the Gold Coast Titans come in 2007. And it was even bigger news in 1995 when 4 teams... Now, we're talking about the complexities around one team coming back into the competition or coming into the competition. There was 4 in 1995. I was at the South Queensland Crushers that year. It was so exciting. 2 teams in Brisbane. Yeah. Crosstown rivalry. And now the North Sydney Bears, even though they're going to be playing out of WA, there's still that rivalry against Manly. Is going to be amazing.
Yeah, and all of a sudden PNG is going to be coming in the following year.
Yep.
And where are we going to get all the players to fill these squads?
Do you think it's locked in for 28?
Yeah, I think it is.
Do you think it is? I wouldn't be surprised if
to
it's
coincide with the next broadcast deal.
Okay.
So they think that they'll be able to maximise the revenue that way.
Yep.
The other interesting thing that I mentioned it during the week in one of my stories was there's an idea in Clubland that potentially, instead of having top 30 squads, you reduce it to top 25, and all of a sudden that frees up about 80-odd players that could potentially go to those expansion clubs. So it'd be interesting to see if the other clubs are on board with that.
Do you know the player 26 to 30, they're usually players who are looking for a minimum wage contract because they're maybe at the end of their careers and they just want to keep playing, they can offer something. Or you've got your young players who are at the start of their NRL careers and probably a little bit too good for the development contracts. So that 26 to 30, you're usually looking at, if you're digging into that 26 to 30 like Souths are now, very early on in the season, it's going to be a long season.
Yeah.
And you have to have a really good coach to get you through that period.
Yeah.
But 26 to 30, if they free up a lot more of those players, they're still going to be making up the depth of a new club, if that makes sense.
Well, you'd need more flexibility around development players and when you can activate them, and potentially your development list could be a little bit longer.
Makes sense.
The other offshoot of that is the salaries for players would actually go up because
they are.
At each club you'd have less and it'd be the same salary cap pool that you're sharing. So maybe that's one way to get the RLPA on board as well.
You hope the love of rugby league in the game is going to retain players in the game, but if the salary cap doesn't go up relative with the new broadcast deal and players feel as though that they're not getting the money they should be with the new broadcast deal and a raised salary cap, but not enough through the RLPA, we may start seeing rugby coming and starting to, again, to try and steal some of those marquee players, if they feel as though that it's not relative to the broadcast deal?
Well, an artificial incentive for PNG, for example, is the tax-free concessions. So it's going to be a hard sell getting people across, but if you're pocketing a hell of a lot more,
Yep.
some of the elite players might decide to go over there.
Yeah, you're right. 1300 01 1170 is our open call line, and I think we've got someone on the line, have we? Who we got there? Hey, John, how are you? You there, John?
Not bad.
Good.
Yeah, mate. I went to the Parramatta. I'm a Parramatta supporter. Went to the game Thursday night. I know we lost, but that's not the point on there, mate. Mate, there was 11,000 people roughly around there, and a lot of young ones, from I don't know, say 5 and 6, 7, 8, 9 with their family and that and so on. Mate, half of them went to sleep. Why are we bloody starting the game at 8 p.m.?
Well, it is
You're going to tell me TV ratings.
Yeah, it's all about the TV ratings.
is.
So they figure they want to maximise the amount of eyeballs. That's the best time to do it. It lets them to lead in after news and a current affair. So there's all of those commercial realities. I get that it's not ideal if you've got young kids, but it's just going to be the way it is.
Yeah, I don't think, John, they're too concerned about the capacity of the crowd. It's more about the capacity of who's watching at home.
Okay, all right. What about the who watching at home? I got about I work with roughly about about 100 and something people on there. We always talk about the next game, how to go on there. And honestly, this is no joke, no bull. You're talking about watching it at home. I said, hey, did you watch the game last night? He said, yeah, but I had to go to sleep at 9:30. So how could they be watching the full bloody game on there? Because if they went to sleep 9:30 to get up at 5 o'clock to go to work.
Yep.
So that's load of garbage on there. Why can't they run it at 7:30 on there? And half an hour is half an hour.
Oh.
They run at 7:30. All they do is talk crap for half an hour anyway. So
John,
7:30 instead of 8.
John, I think you speak on behalf of many, many listeners and viewers when it comes to rugby league, that 7:30 would be the perfect time, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, 7's probably a little bit too early.
Yeah.
People, whether they're leaving work, catching public transport, whatever it may be, 7:30 is an ideal time. But, we don't run the TV networks.
You can't please everyone, because people with the 6 o'clock game on Friday, some people are saying, well, I'm not getting back from work in time to see that. So not everyone's going to be happy whatever you do.
Yep. Hey, let's get to that Thursday night game really quickly. That was the Eels versus the Dolphins, 20 points to 16. And John, as an Eels fan, and you as an Eels fan,
Long
AP,
suffering, yes, I feel your pain, John.
I could feel the pain of Jason Rolls when the hammer tackled Dylan Brown.
Can I say, it's funny because we look at everything through the prism of origin at this time of year. And last year, I was so excited about the prospect of Mitchell Moses kicking across field to Zach Lomax, and for him going up and taking the ball down and planting the ball over the line, and just thinking, we're going to see this every week. We're now into round 10, and those two haven't been on the field at the same time all year. So hopefully that happens for the first time next year, but that's a key out. But I think also Jason Rolls has made all the tough decisions at once. So obviously moving on Gutho, moving on RCG, and then he's decided to drop some guys that are probably not playing up to their paycheck. So guys like Ryan Madison, Sean Lane, Bryce Cartwright. So he's not looking for a short-term fix. He's looking at guys that will do the job longer term, and it means blooding young players like Riley Smith and Isaiah Yongi, and there's going to be some short-term pain with that, but I can see some green shoots for Parramatta.
It's funny you should say that, because Steve from Dubbo says, I see green shoots at Para. I'm not ruling out finals campaign this year. Steve, we love your passion. Love your passion. 20 points to 16. And as Christian Wolf said in the post-game, and we won't get to that audio, but basically what he said, what Ben Hornby said about South Sydney, is that it was all built on defensive efforts, really good resilience, and the Dolphins have been a little bit of rocks and diamonds this year. I see them playing finals this year, purely based on their team on paper, but that doesn't mean everything, does it?
Yep.
Hey, let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff, and if you want to get involved in the show, 0457 736 736 is the way to do it, or you can give us a call like John did 1300 01 1170. Let's talk about the footy from the weekend, the games to come. If you're a fan from one of the teams that won or was beaten over the weekend so far in round 10, we want to hear from you. Let's get to a break. Scotty Sattler, Adrian Prosenko in the chair on this Saturday. For Magic Round, we had a lot of shows and we called some games from Wing House. I went into a wing coma on Saturday night.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I had so many wings. And I'm a bone man. I refuse to share wings with anyone who eats the boneless chicken wings.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You're not even worthy of sitting at the same table. Wings need to be eaten the traditional style.
I'm tipping you don't share a lot of meals, Sats.
Yeah, tapas. I'm not a big tapas fan.
Oh, because you don't like dipping in or whatever?
Well, I don't like sharing my food.
Yeah, right.
And there's never enough.
What about Mrs. Sats? Like, so do you
She's
actually...
a tapas freak.
Oh, really?
She loves it.
But what about if she wants to try a bit of your main meal? Like, are you into that or?
I'm okay with that with her.
But no one,
but not too much. Not too much. Hey, we've got a great text here. My name is Joe, lifelong Roosters fan. Love my team, proud of the success in recent years. However, agree with the assertion that recruitment decisions have been un-Roosters-like in recent years. And you said that, AP.
Yep.
My Roosters mates and I don't want DCE at our club. Be careful what you wish for. He's a winner. Especially if it means we lose Sandon Smith, Hugo Savala, Sammy Walker. Well, I don't think you lose Sammy Walker, but I think you're going to lose one of the other two.
And there's Toby Rodwell that's coming through as well. And I guess the hope is that it's almost like a Cooper Cronk style situation. You come in for a couple of years, you're basically banking on winning a premiership, but it's going to come at a cost. And like I think Hugo Savala's manager has already said, well, if that happens, like we might look for a loan deal somewhere else. Something's got to give. You
know, I think Hugo Savala's time in the number 7 jersey is very short-lived. I think he's more maybe of a 6. I think he's more of a 13, to be quite honest, which is great for him.
One of the biggest halves. Like Terry Campese was a really big body, but
Trent Barrett was a massive 5'8", massive
even
half.
Loz was
big as well. We got some text here about watches Loz's hit on Trevor Gilmeister as well. That was a good shout out as well, talking about Laurie Daley. And he's got big decisions next week when it comes to his New South Wales team. Let's get stuck into these SEN League coverage from 2 p.m. The Raiders v the Bulldogs, 2nd versus 4th. GIO Stadium. Gates were closed as of about Wednesday, sold out officially. I cannot wait to watch this. 2 heavyweights. Now, it's not going to be as cold as what Canberra normally is, seeing it's a 3 o'clock game. Still going to be a little bit brisk. But it's... we talk about these teams that make you watch them.
Yeah.
The Raiders is a team that makes... I watch the Knights because I love watching Kalen. He makes me watch the Knights. I love watching the Raiders from 1 to 17. I love the way they're coached. I love Ricky's antics on the sideline. I love how passionate he is. I love how close he is to his players.
Yeah.
I love how the players respond to it.
Yeah. And I think that there's no reason for them to drop off from where they've been because they've been on the road for a long time. They've played a lot of away games. So the back half of the year, they're going to be playing a lot as it gets colder in Canberra as well. No one enjoys a road trip to Canberra. They've banked all of those early points. I can see them coming home with a wet sail, and top 4 is very much a realistic possibility.
I think Canberra can win it if they don't get any injuries, because it's fair to say there's no team that's putting their hand up.
No, I thought Storm at the start of the year was the obvious one, and I thought Brisbane would be the team most likely, and they've been disappointing to date. I think they will come good.
Yep.
Panthers have come a little bit back to the pack, and again, I think they'll come good, but again, they don't have Jerome Luai. They don't have the depth to cover, particularly with this Origin period coming up.
Canberra won't lose a lot of players.
I was going to say, they'll be relatively unaffected.
Probably
There'll be
Hudson Young. Probably that's about it, I would think. You've got 2 Kiwi centres. So
I'll tell you who I've enjoyed watching, Corey Horsburgh. He's basically out the door.
Yep.
And Ricky didn't speak to him for more than 6 months.
He admits it. It was his fault for part of it as well.
I had a big chat with him, I think it was late last year, and he talked about he needed to change his attitude and he was kicking stones and blaming everyone else. But he was able to turn that relationship around. And what about his form as well? They'll miss him today.
It's been outstanding. Yeah, we have got a text here about, I'm glad to see Corey Horsburgh's out, actually. So, yeah, he has been a bit of a spiritual leader, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Hey, so who wins there? I think I've got the Raiders at home. Bulldogs still got some players out.
Yeah, I've gone the Raiders as well.
Yep. Okay, let's go to the second one now. We have got some texts here. How do you think the Dragons are going to go today? We've got multiple texts from the Dragons fans. Dragons v Warriors, 5:30 at WIN Stadium in Wollongong. Now, DWZ, you know you're going okay when you can just refer to someone as their initials. SBW,
DCE.
JFH.
Yep.
AFB,
Yep.
DCE, JWH. Dragons versus Warriors. Now, he's set to return. Dallin, Watini Zalesniak. Now, this young King Tongia, likely to keep the 7 jersey. He had a bit of a solid. I think he had a. I think if your debut's at a 6.5,
Yep.
I think that's okay.
Yep, absolutely. He'll be better for the run. I think defensively, like there were a couple of times he got found out, but he's very good with the ball in hand.
Yep.
The one that I'm really looking forward to is Loco Pacifici
Well,
Tonga.
so when we were about to go on air for Sports Day, myself and Matty Rogers, I think it might have been on Tuesday, AP, I saw your name come up on his phone.
Yep.
And you had a chat to Matty, because Matty Rogers and Cliffo, his business partner, they look after him. It's a great story how they found him.
Well, it's funny. They actually went to watch Matty's son play, and they just saw this massive behemoth on the other field, like just practicing his goal kicking, nailing them from halfway or whatever else. They didn't even watch him play and just said, "We're signing that kid."
Yep.
And it's a wonderful story. He's spent time in New Zealand, Melbourne, Sydney, Queensland.
Well, did his family move down to Melbourne, or?
Yeah, his family moved to.
So it wasn't a Melbourne Storm deal.
No, he was in Melbourne. He was actually playing rugby union, and then COVID struck, and he couldn't. Melbourne was totally locked down. There was nowhere to go. He thought the best chance for him to play some rugby and achieve his dreams is to go to Keebra Park, that renowned junior nursery. So he trials for Keebra Park. And this is a guy who now is 123 kilos and 197 centimetres. He's still in his teens. They said, "You're in the B team. You don't make the cut." It's unbelievable. So he's then switched to Ipswich.
Yep.
And they go through, I think they're undefeated.
Yeah, they go through and win the national title.
And he has done everything. He's Australian schoolboys, played New South Wales under-19s Origin. And now he gets his chance for St George Aura Dragons. It's a terrific story.
It's a great story. Well done. Cliffo and Matty Rogers also taking a punt on not going through the regular systems to find young kids, but it's just something completely left field. That's the art of identifying talent.
Yep.
Everyone identifies your Sonny Bill Williamses and those players, Caleb Bryant. Everyone sees those players. They get found eventually. It's the ones, it's the gems that jump out of nowhere.
It's a great story too, because his girlfriend's currently part of the Roosters NRLW team.
Oh, wow.
But she's going to join him at the Dragons next year. So
Nathan Cross, good coach there too.
They're both going to be able to pursue their dreams together at the same time.
Good stuff. Great story. And the game to finalise the Saturday night's rugby league is the third place Cowboys up against Panthers. 7:35, QBank, Queensland Country Bank Stadium, I should say. Cowboys won 4 of their last 6 games against Panthers, funnily enough. And Reuben Cotter's 2-game ban is a big loss for the Cows.
Yep.
I think it's a good sign for Queensland. I think he's looking really tired and fatigued at the moment, Reuben. So I think the 2 weeks out is going to be great for Queensland. Not so ideal for the Cowboys. So firstly, the Dragons v Warriors. Who wins?
Warriors.
Yeah, I think they might also. I think
it'll be hard because they're a much better team at win, but I reckon the Warriors will sneak home.
Yeah. Wouldn't surprise me, but Wollongong does some crazy things.
Yeah.
The wind, the southeast. Now, Cowboys versus Panthers. Now, Brian Toto is returning from hamstring. Mitch Kenny, who's the Minister of Defence, he returns from suspension as well. Back-to-back wins for Panthers if they get this one.
Yeah, I think they'll do it. We've just seen them start to warm to the task. It's taken a while, like, young players, new combinations, guys like Blaise Talangi slowly coming into the team and getting used to the Panthers systems. The big test will be in the next few weeks when they start losing blokes to Origin, and Brian Toto is going to be really fascinating because, as I mentioned earlier, him and Zach Lomax are probably coming back, and I think only one of them will get the spot.
It's a good point, yeah.
It'll probably be Brian, but it depends on how they both come back.
Yep. DWZ, AFB, AP, the DH. That's from our every show and every group of friends has got a clown.
Yes.
Ours is Lundy. He's
good
the clown. Cowboys v Panthers. Who wins that? I'm going to say Cows.
Yep.
Yeah. I can't believe I'm saying that. Sorry to my son Jack, who's just fallen off his chair in Townsville.
Rock solid.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we've got some text to get here. Let's see how King Tongia likes tackling Laka Halasima.
Oh, that'll be
Windsor
fun,
Warrior.
won't it?
Yeah, it
That'll
will be fun.
awesome.
Now, Sats, we know why Cooper Cronk left Melbourne, but thoughts, and Richard did say it's called the tan. I did say the tan, the run, didn't I, at Melbourne? Yeah, the tan. He left Melbourne. If he would have stayed, they would have gone back to back to back because they won 17, 18, 19 at the Roosters. There's a big chance they would have, Richard. Absolutely, I think they would have. Well, I think it would have been a pretty short price favourite.
Well, in terms of his legacy, the fact that he can now say, I've done it at multiple clubs, like for him, obviously, Cooper, the move paid off, and hopefully it does for DC as well.
Do you think, guys, with expansion coming in, do you think the loan system will be used a lot more? It's a really good point, Tynan. It's a really good point. I think it will come into fruition a lot more. And one we might touch on when we get to crunch time in the third hour, which is, do you think the NRL are rushing too quick to expand teams from 805? I think that's worthy of a really good conversation in crunch time. So we'll get to that very, very soon. But on the other side, we're going to join you and start talking about the Sunday games. But until then, we're going to get to the news right now. Welcome back to Saturday League Kickoff. Scott Sattler, Adrian Prosenko. Took me by surprise then, I've got to say. Plenty of news going on. What about being named the new Pope? You get a new name. Like, his name's Leo, but it's actually not his name. He's an American archbishop. Done a lot of work in mission work.
Yeah.
But they give you a name. What if you don't like the name Leo? Yeah. It's like that episode from Seinfeld. He goes, I don't want to be a pirate. I don't want to be Leo.
So if you weren't Scott, what would you like to be called?
I want to be something tough. It's like Dusty.
I wanted my
Pope
son.
Dusty.
My son's name's Ben. I wanted him to be Maximum Prosenko.
Yeah.
How good's that?
That's on Gladiator 3. Maximum Prosenko. Hey, welcome back to the show. Plenty of texts coming through. Is there any link with Sexton off contract and Cherry Evans to the Bulldogs? Scott from Forestville. Gus Gould, Scotty, has come out and said, listen, we're out of the race. But I think that's more of a message saying to his current development players and his halves, we're on a good thing at the moment. I don't need to upset that apple cart. I've got no doubt there's still been some I've got no evidence of that, but I would be silly to think that there's still there has still been. I'd be silly to think there hasn't been some conversation about the possibility.
It's a really interesting situation for the Bulldogs and several other clubs where they've got really good young kids, and in their case, guys like Cassius Tia and in particular Mitchell Woods, they reckon he's the next long-term number 7 for the club, but they're not quite ready yet. And Toby Sexton is off contract now, so do you extend him for 1 year? Do you keep waiting? Do you think we're going to throw Mitch Woods in? Or do you sneak under the radar and try to get a DCE to the club?
Based on where the Bulldogs have been and the lack of playing finals for a number of years, you're taking the Cronk model. You're taking him. You're trying to get him. You're trying to win a comp in those 1 or 2 years, and then he just drifts off into the sunset with another legacy under his belt. If I'm the Bulldogs, if you're another club that's tasted some success over time and he became available, you probably think, we probably don't need him. We can invest in our future.
It's really hard because a lot of clubs are sort of wondering when to pull the trigger. So like the Manly have got Ontoni Large. They've got Joe Walsh. You saw Canberra being prepared to let Jamal Fogarty go because they've got young guys in the Sanders, Ethan Sanders, Ethan Strange. So how long is too long? And you don't want to block the pathway of someone who'll get, disgruntled and leave, which could happen at the Roosters.
I think Ethan Sanders and Ethan Strange will become one of the most dynamic halves combinations in the NRL in a few years. Ethan Strange, to me, is what you want in a half, 5'8". One, he's quick. He's unpredictable. Obviously, his kicking game will grow. His one-on-one defence, we talk about Laurie Daley. His one-on-one defence is Laurie Daley-like. He's got great technique. I think it's exciting times. I love Jamal Fogarty. I would have loved to have seen him finish at Canberra under Ricky. They've got such a great relationship. He's been a big reason why they've had some short-term success playing finals, Jamal Fogarty. But I'm actually really excited for the future of the Raiders with Ethan Sanders and Strange.
With Jamal, it also speaks to just how few halves there are out there. So initially they were going, we'll have him for 1 more year. Then Manly's gone 2, then they've gone 2, then they've gone 3. So there's
Who
not a
blinks
lot out-
first? That's what it's about.
There's not much out there. And then you've got two clubs that are about to come into the competition. Where are their next halves going to come from?
McHugh says he's got me here. He says, Scott, you want a tough name? I've got one for you, John Sattler.
Got in.
Let's get through to the Sunday games. We're going to get more of your texts. There's been some great texts coming through. People are saying Latrell's last try was not in the spirit of the game. With the Broncos thinking the game was over. What do you think, Mark? We've got another text saying if it happened in park footy, it would have started a melee. You know what, Mark? There would be some that say that, but like any coach will tell you, play the whistle.
Play to the whistle.
Play the whistle, yeah. And I wouldn't expect anything less from Latrell Mitchell.
It was such a cheeky thing to do, though.
If it wasn't Latrell, it would have been Cody.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Storm versus West Tigers is the start of our Sunday games at Amy Park, 2 p.m. The Storm, the way they started last week, the Storm are one of those sides that when you see them in the first 15 minutes, you say to yourself, they're on.
Yeah.
Or they're just not feeling it today. And last week I said to myself, the Storm are on a magic round. I thought at one stage there against Canberra, it could have been 30 or 40.
Yeah.
But to their credit, what Canberra really do is they drag you back down in the trenches. So the Storm this week very rarely lose back-to-back games, very rarely in the history of their club. Yeah.
What I'm really looking forward to is Stefano playing against his former club.
Yep.
And then Terrell May with everything on the line. He's probably been, aside from Payne Haas, the form front rower this season.
Fair to say.
And, he has a couple of big games, particularly against the Storm, and Laurie Daley picks him. I think he gives him, you've got to leave him no choice.
Yep, absolutely. Now, with the Storm, Ryan Papenhuyzen, do you think Dylan Edwards has got the rails run?
Yeah.
He's the incumbent, man of the match last game, I think he was.
Yeah.
And just in Origin, I don't think it's more about. People keep saying you've got to keep the Panthers connection together. I think that I think it actually puts a barrier at Origin level.
Yeah.
But Dylan Edwards comes up with a lot of those plays I touched on earlier on. It's all about the little efforts that go unnoticed, but it goes a long way with winning your side. So
I think Laurie asks Nathan Cleary what he thinks and Isaiah Yeo, and I think for that reason, Dylan Edwards is at the back because he organises all of that stuff in defence, and Teddy's playing out of his skin, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's not a bad choice there.
Okay, can I throw? So, is it fair to say the fullback contenders are Dylan Edwards?
Yeah.
Check. Yep. James Tedesco.
Yeah.
Latrell Mitchell. More of a centre.
I think he's more of a centre.
Okay, so we're going to go.
Even Tom Trebojevic.
Trebojevic is a fullback. Ryan Papenhuyzen is a fullback.
Yep.
Where does Pappy sit in that fullback position? Is he?
I think he's just below those guys.
So you think he's fourth?
Yep.
When they sit down, they say, right, let's map out our fullbacks.
Yep.
There's our incumbent.
Yep.
Trebojevic is back. We've also got Teddy, who's probably been one of the form players of the comp this year. And then we've got Ryan Papenhuyzen.
Yep.
Are they spending more time talking about the other three than they are Pappy
I think
at the
it's
moment?
Dylan, Teddy, Turbo, and then you're talking about Paps, and then Latrell.
Would you see Pappy as a potential 14?
I don't think so.
Just an out-and-out one?
No, I think you've got Connor Watson that can basically cover every position. Yep. I don't think you can keep both of them.
Yep. Sexton, 1 year extension, then off to the Bears, Azza from DY. If you're a player and a club comes to you, it used to be a slap in the face if a club that could come to you and say, we're going to offer you a 1 year deal. You actually, you know what? You're actually welcoming it. At the moment.
It's good business practice. And I think a lot of managers are teeing them up because there's going to be an increase in the salary cap as well with the next broadcast deal. So they don't want to sell their clients short or themselves with the 6.5% that they pocket.
We love it when our listeners and our viewers on Fox League give us a call on 1300 01 1170. We've got Dane from Yowie Bay. How are you, Dane?
How you going, buddy?
What's happening?
Nothing much. I've got two names for you very quickly before I go into what I say.
Yep.
Sammy Burgess, Les Davidson. Both, mate, two ultimate bloody hitmen. You know what I mean? Just the names themselves put fear into you. But what I was about to say is I love Tom Brady's guidance and Tom Brady's leadership, right?
Yep.
Now, what Tom Brady stated on Brady 6, if you've ever seen that, do yourself a favour, the documentary, he said leadership is not a sometime thing, it's an everyday thing. And with regards to Latrell, I hope he's playing consistent footy for South every day or leading every day like he did last night and not just on the rare occasion to make an origin team or when he wants to.
Yep.
So the best players stand up all the time. Like you look at South of old, you look at your old man, you look at Bobby Mack, you look at all of them, and it's about putting in each and every game. And it doesn't have to be, winning every game. All South fans care about is people having a crack. And on that note, if you looked last night, one of the most proudest moments of last night was not the fact that Latrell kicked a drop goal from 48 out. It's when Jai Arrow goes onto the field, Jai Gray walks onto the field and it erupts with applause because all South fans care about is someone having a crack and having pride in the jersey. Yeah. And I think there was a lot of lessons last night we could take from the game. But that was one of my favourites, was hearing the fans erupt just out of respect for what that Jai Gray brings. And if Latrell could take a note out of his book in regard to the passion and what it means to him in regards to having a go with courage, I think we'll be in a better spot in games to come.
It's interesting. I didn't realise this till just the other day. Latrell has never been part of the New South Wales side while Laurie Daley is the coach. Okay, so that was still quite early in his career. I think that they might have crossed over a little bit for an Indigenous All-Star side. That's the only time. But, Latrell has always come up with the big rock star moments, hasn't he? Like when he kicked the field goal and then he turned his back. It reminded me of like an action movie, like when you detonate the bomb and everything explodes in the background and you start walking away and you don't even look over your shoulder.
That's what it was. It was like that big. I like to use the word arrogance in a good way. Yeah. Like a confidence where he turned around, he stuck the chest out, and everyone's jumping over him like a tree. Yeah. He's climbing him like a tree, yeah. Hey, that was a great shout out, Dane, and you make a really good point. I love that saying. Leadership isn't a sometimes, it's an everything. I always expand that to if you want to be a professional athlete, you can't be a professional athlete sometimes. Yeah. You got to be one all the time. That comes down to your preparation, off the field, the way you deal with your other teammates. So that's a really good call, Dane. Lundy says, I don't think Perth can afford that Tom Brady, though. I think you're right. Absolutely. We've got some more callers coming through as well. We're going to get to those very, very soon. Seagulls versus Sharks, 4:05, Four Pines Stadium. Now, I'm doing the Dally M's for this because I'm one of those people, they hide the Dally M judges. I'm happy to say.
I like that.
I fly the flag. Yeah, I'm doing the Dally M's. I'm one of the Dally M judges for this game, so I'll be watching this very closely now. There was a story written in the Sydney Morning Herald by one of your journos this morning. Funnily, I didn't see who it was, but some of the players that have played 50-odd games for the Cronulla Sharks have never played against Tom Trbojevic.
I've been looking for the stat, but that is uncanny, isn't it? Yeah. That is absolutely outrageous.
Back today.
Yep, which is massive. Yep. Also, I covered the game where they were in Perth. It was only 3 or 4 weeks ago.
It was too.
So bizarre. You talk about how this Canadian computer or whatever spits out all of this information. Dexter, you want Dexter to do it.
Well, Dexter from, what was that show?
Perfect Match.
Perfect Match. Our producer, Andrew, he worked on Perfect Match. He was Dexter.
Bill Harrigan was a contestant on Perfect Match.
Is that while he was a police officer, was it?
Could well have been.
Wow. Yeah, so that game today, it's going to be a tough one for Cronulla Sharks. They are playing really tough footy. Again, like a lot of teams, they are a little bit of rocks or diamonds. But one player that is back in is Jake Trbojevic from concussion, and Tommy Trbojevic as well.
Well, Jake has to show Laurie Daley something over the next 2 games.
Yep.
Basically, he needs to go out there and prove that he should still be leading that side as captain.
And the Sharkies, really good win, and your fullback is moving into elite status, Will Kennedy. He's been absolutely amazing. Let's get to a break here on Saturday League Kickoff. We're going to get to more of your texts after the break. Oh, we've got some great listeners. We're going to get to your texts. This final segment before we wrap up the show is all about you, the listeners, and the viewers who watched earlier on Fox League. It's a great collaboration between Fox Sports and SEN. We've got Josh and Pete to get to very soon. Bill Harrigan was on Perfect Match. Dude does blow a good whistle. Maybe he signed up because he thought Perfect Match was a footy review show. He did love the limelight, didn't he?
He doesn't mind the cameras on him.
He was a handy referee, but he was very, very good on the run.
As a player, did you most enjoy playing under him?
Yeah, he just let everything go. He used to take you back 12 metres. Yeah. So if you were in front of him, you were still back 10 metres.
Yeah.
And he just let the game flow. took a lot more out of the bigger guys. I know that, but us smaller forwards, it felt good. But yeah, he was very, very good. Made some mistakes now and then. The one in the 89 grand finals, that was a clanger on Bruce Maguire. In possession of the ball, tapped the ball forward, penalised him for using the opposition player as a shepherd.
But then again, there was no bunker, there was no one in your ear.
No.
Like, you had to do it all yourself. And the game, in many respects, was better because it just flowed.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, let's get to some of our callers. 1300 01 1170. Josh from Coogee is on the line. How are you, Josh?
Boys.
What's happening, pal?
Yeah, not much. Just weighing in on the North Sydney Bears / Perth Bears sort of topic. I was born into a North Sydney Bears fan, and a lot of my fondest memories growing up was at North Sydney Oval and things like that. And then I was about 13 years old when they got booted, and I had a couple of years of sort of being a neutral rugby league fan. And after a couple of years, I started to go to the New Zealand Warriors and went with my family heritage. And I'm just wondering sort of if there's going to be a lot of fans out there who have kind of, I'm not going to say moved on, but if they're going to come back to the Bears and how much that Perth Bears is going to have that North Sydney Bears feel about it.
What about you, Josh? Growing up in a Bears family originally, will you go to their games when they're in Sydney?
Yeah, I'll definitely go to their games at North Sydney Oval, 100%. I'm actually on the way down to Wollongong to watch the Wires play tonight, and I've got my North Sydney Bears jacket that I might throw over my Warriors jersey. But yeah, I don't know. I just don't know how much of that North Sydney Bears feel will be a part of it. If they've just been used for that sort of expansion. I don't know. It's just going to be interesting to see how many. Obviously it was great scenes at North Sydney Oval and stuff like that, and North Sydney Leagues Club the other day. But it's going to be strange to see how much of that feel still has that North Sydney Bears feel about it.
Yep. Yeah, it's a really good point you make, Josh and AP. I think winning breeds support. So
yeah, I think it's great because they've got 200,000 engaged, rusted on Bears fans. So this is a nod to their tradition and history and heritage. And I reckon they'll come back. Yep. I reckon they will all come back.
I think they will too initially, yeah, absolutely. Yep. Hey, let's get to another caller. Pete from Oran Park is on the line as well, wants to talk about New South Wales and the Broncos. How are you, Pete?
G'day, Shaggers.
What's going on?
How are you?
Yeah, good. Is that Reptile?
Mate, what, you got the work experience kids on today?
Is that Reptile, is it?
Yeah.
I never thought it was...
My name's not even Pete.
I was going to say...
My name's not even Pete.
I've never even known your name, Reptile. I don't even want to know your name, Reptile.
I thought he was referring to me as the work experience kid.
Okay, so Reptile, you got about 20 seconds. What's on your mind?
I just want to talk about Kevin Walters, how classy the man is. Like, he could have gave it to the Broncos last night in that post game. He spoke nothing but glowing. Could have said it. Hey, it wasn't me, was it? Like all that. He didn't. He just talked that Michael Guy will get it right and all that, and just nothing but support.
That's, you know what? That's a great call. Great call at Reptile.
And I thought he was classy too when he was asked about Des and the Titans because he's been linked to that job, and he could have dug the boot in, but he sort of said, I hope he gets it right, and it'd be disrespectful.
And could have promoted himself as well.
Yeah, he said, I'm not going to do that to Des.
Yeah, classy man. He's a great guy. Kevy. Have you had anything to do with Kevy?
A little bit.
Yeah, he's a great guy. He is really good company. Hey, that's been a great 2 hours. Thank you very much for all your interaction. Don't worry, it's not going to finish because we're going to do crunch time for another hour, myself and AP. We're going to get out of this studio. We're going to moonwalk across to the other studio, and we're going to talk about a lot of the topics that you have contacted us this morning. Thank you very much to Benny Hornby as well. Thank you to everyone who has listened to the show, watched it on Fox League as well, and also sent your text messages and also the callers. This is Saturday League Kickoff for another Saturday. Enjoy the footy over the weekend. We're going to see you very, very soon.